Hello, my name is TavTavern. Um, Existential question, who are you? I think probably most people know me as a fursuiter on the internet. Probably don't know that I'm also an artist. I've been arting on and off for the last 20 years. But one of the things that I also do a lot of is I work a lot with London Furs and I do their design work and their branding. I suppose if we were a posh, fancy organization, I'd be a creative director. But as it is, I mostly just do the design stuff. So that's probably a side that a lot of people probably don't know I do. Otherwise, they probably just know me as dog person off the internet.
And what got you started in the furry fandom in the first place?
That's a great question. I love this question in very well because I think unlike I don't know maybe people who are into Star Trek, nothing against them, but people will say, "How would you get into Star Trek?" And they'll probably say, "I watched Star Trek." Whereas in the furry fandom, everyone comes in through these unique, strange little ways. It's like we all have our own paths into the fandom, which means that I think however long you're in the fandom, you find yourself always asking people, "So how did you find your way here?" So I think for me. I've been in the fandom for a horribly long time, probably around 25 years now. And so this was kind of quite early days of the furry internet. And there were websites and wikis and IRCs, but I think the thing that first triggered me in was just finding a piece of artwork online, just browsing around. I was really into Tank Girl and illustration, Jamie Hewlett comics, and I just found this picture of an anthropomorphic kangaroo. It was drawn by an artist called Kangaroo Boy, who has vanished off the face of the earth. So if anyone ever like knows who Kangaroo Boy is or was, and if they are still with us, please let me know because I owe them a beer. Because there's just one piece of artwork that I saw, and I was like, What is this? And how do I find more of it?" So I think for maybe that first day, I was just trying to work out what even keyword am I looking to put into Ask Jeeves or whatever it was at the time to find more of this plus. And so eventually I figured out that this was furry. And then I found more furry artwork online. I assumed all furries in the world were in America, none were in the UK. But very slowly, through very early tools like ICQ and some of those forums, that you start finding that there are people in the UK as well, start making those connections. And that was probably kind of my way in to the fandom.
And as you mentioned before, you were involved in London first. It's something we used to work on together years ago, way back when I was involved in London Furs. I'm not anymore, but we shall see what future brings. How did you get involved with London Furs?
That's a good question. Yeah, and you are welcome back anytime, Ink. Like, ooh, miss you. So I got involved around COVID time, just before COVID. The previous creative director, Miyabi, was getting a little bit in over his head with the amount of real world work that he had to be working on, and really just wanted someone to come in and just help keep the lights on with London First artwork, just the bits and pieces. So I came in really as a dog's body with a dog's body designer. Hey, and then COVID happened. And then so whereas I was like expecting we'd be ramping up for doing summer party artwork and I was gonna have to figure out how to do all of that side of it, suddenly everything stopped and we for a while didn't really know what we were gonna do. But we managed to keep the ball rolling. We did London Furs Online and we did these kind of Discord chats and we did interviews. Every time there would have been a meet, we did something online. I have no idea how many people actually dialed in for those, but we kind of like to think that even if we helped one person or a few people feel less lonely and bored over some of those really boring COVID winter months, then it was a nice thing to do. So I did that for however long COVID lasted, 18 months. And then when we slowly started coming back, then I sort of just carried on that ball rolling. And by that point, like Miyabi was kind of happy with me just taking the ball and going with it. So I kept that going, and then I've kind of stepped into that role more and more over the last couple of years. We did a big rebrand. If anyone is comes to London Furs or knows London Furs, you probably have seen we did a kind of rebrand, redid the logo and rejudged it all about 2 or 3 years ago. So I did that and I put all of that together and redid all the new banners and social stuff. And now really my job is kind of just to keep the wheels on keep the train on the tracks, make sure everything's kind of consistent and neat. So whenever you see London Furs, it should look, hopefully, fingers crossed, pretty consistent, pretty high quality. And the fun stuff at the moment now is really every time there is a winter or a summer party that we do twice a year, we get to commission some cool artists and we get to have fun with our themes and playing with the themes. So that is always the highlight, I think, of London Furs for me.
And like with being part of the team now, 5, 6 years since COVID started, obviously London Furs and the furry fandom has grown. What has that been like to watch the growth of the community, meet on meet on meet?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, like I said, I've been in the fandom for a while, so I went to London Furs 20 years ago, and it was in the upstairs of a pub in Kentish Town area. And to see from where it was then to where it is now is such a gigantic change. So for kind of context, this was, like I said, it was the upstairs of a pub that I think most people downstairs just gave you funny, strange looks. I'm not even sure they really wanted us there. There was probably only about maybe 20 or 30 people rotating from meet to meet that would turn up. It was a pretty interesting, eclectic mix of people, awkward social people, just stood around, sitting on the floor. It was kind of an odd meet, but it was nice because it was ours, and it was a way that we'd actually be able to connect. And I kind of went away from going to the meets quite a lot, and then I only really came back when we were at Jamie's, and then when we were now at the Tank and Paddle. And geez, now we're up to such huge numbers that we have to ticket the events. They're so popular. And then it's running almost like a small con every 3 weeks. And the parties, before we had to ticket them, when we were just letting people turn up, we were almost getting into like four figures, like 1,000 attendees just to a pub in London. It was crazy. It was so much fun. So it was great to see. It's so cool to see it growing in that way. And it's not exploding. It's just steady growth. And like I said, we've seen it year on year, just those numbers just creeping up, creeping up, creeping up. And yeah, we have had to introduce ticketing because that was always going to be on the cards at some point that we'd have to do that. There's only so many people we could get in the venue at once. But I think people have responded relatively well to that, with quite a lot of understanding to it. So it has been great to see it grow and also the community grow, and on the whole, like everyone is really positive about the event and they support us and they kind of appreciate. I'd like to think they appreciate what we're doing.
So I remember when I was part of LFM, we had a great time doing the Guest the Fursuiter, and we had a great time doing the summer boat party as well. I think that was the year 2023 with the pirate theme, if memory serves. What are some of your favorite LFM memories?
Oh, that's a good one. I think one of the ones that comes to mind is when we did the biker theme for it. Now, kind of behind the scenes, we chip around ideas quite a lot. Sometimes there are themes that I've always been like, I really wanted to do this theme. I think it's really cool. I can see it in my head. I know how I'm going to do the visuals. I think people would really like it. I think there's good costume ideas. And so sometimes I kind of push that forward. And with the biker theme, Annie, just the other chairman who runs London Furs, dropped into my DMs and was like, "We should do a biker theme." And I was like, "What? That's too weird. We can't. We'll upset the Hell's Angels. We'll like people won't get it." And in my head, I was like, "I don't even know how I'm gonna do that visually. Like, I don't even know what that means." But I think after a bit of thinking, I was like, actually, no, I think we could make this work. We could do a kind of real 70s Born to be Wild kind of vibe, like be less Hell's Angels, more kind of freewheeling motorbikes and kind of a little bit more hippie-ish in a way. And that then as soon you kind of know you're on something when you've got like a hook like that, because you start going, oh yeah, and I could do this, and we could do this, and we could do this. And that's always when you know you've got a really good theme that you're working with. And so immediately we're like, oh yeah, we could do like a crest, like a biker gang crest sort of thing, but not like scary, sort of quite cool. And then we're like, we could get those crests made. We could like get them embroidered. We could put them on jackets. We could put them on and so just the ideas kind of grew and grew. And in the end, we ended up with these kind of leather vests for all the sort of the staff, with the crests on the back. And it just looks really good. The whole theme just really came together. And we even rented some motorbikes outside that people could be sat and perched on, having their pictures. We put like a biker playlist together for the main bar, so it sounded like a kind of dive bar. So that was one of those really cool examples of it just all really coming together in a nice way. And some themes haven't come together as well. Other ones have. I really like the frostbite theme we did 2 years ago for winter, because winter is always a tricky one you want to get right. It's you lean into it being kind of cozy and Christmassy, which is kind of a nice vibe, but it doesn't feel intrinsically kind of fun and upbeat and partyish and let's start dancing. Whereas, so we kind of ummed and ahed for quite a while, and I was always like, I kind of want to do a techno kind of rave theme, but I can't make that fit with Christmas. Until we kind of thought like, well, we could do this kind of frostbite with a Y. So it's sort of a little bit glitchy, a little bit cyber, but also leans into kind of the winter side, and we can do neons and lean into that side. So that again, that was one of those themes that once that ball started rolling, it kind of really came together. And we've actually kind of recently decided that we probably think that most of our winter parties now will be Frostbite. So that's why we're doing it again this year. We're doing like Frostbite Volume 2. So possibly watch the space, don't know for sure, but it may come to be that the winter parties are just Frostbite.
So I want to move back really quickly about your artistic style, artistic journey. How did you kind of get started into art in the first place?
Yeah, so I've always been artistic, even before I was in the fandom. I'm a designer for a living outside of the furry world. And so I was in college doing art classes and doing qualifications in art. So I was already kind of had the tools and bits and pieces around me. My dad was actually a designer, so we grew up with colored marker pens and spray mount for sticking things and scalpels for cutting stuff out. And so we were already very creative kids already. So I think I already had that streak in me. And so I think when a lot of people enter the furry fandom, I think everyone gives art a bit of a go at some point. It's like a bit of a rite of passage, isn't it? I think everyone tries to go like, oh, I want to draw something uh, with varying success. And so I think being naturally artistic already, I kind of leaned into that. And to be honest, I've never really embraced the artistic label of being a furry artist, because I tend to pick it up and leave it, come back to it, drop it for sometimes years on end, and then pick it back up again. So I've never really been able to keep any sort of momentum and build, in slightly odd terms, a brand around being a furry artist. And so many people go like, oh, I didn't even know you did art, even though I have been doing it on and off now for 20 years. I've done a lot of pieces of art. I've done pieces of art for LondonFurs, but I don't think people ever really make that connection that I did it. So it's an interesting relationship I have with being a furry artist as well, because it's even when I started, and this was probably about 25 years ago, I think I pretty much got straight into it. There was already a lot of very good, let's call them A tier artists out there. I think I came in at like a C grade, and there was not that many. So it was kind of, if you could make furry art, then people were like, "Oh, cool, you're a furry artist. That's going to be just." Even though the stuff I was doing was pretty janky and pretty awful. Right? Let's be more honest. Probably D grade art. But then as I kind of got better, I think more and more people were joining. And instead of just A tier, you got like S tier artists, like really freaking good. And then that A tier got bigger, and then B tier got bigger. So by the time I felt like I'd actually sort of earned those skills to make good art, there was just a lot of artists online. There was a lot of content already. And this is when I was really trying hard to be an artist. And I think it's so much worse now. But just even trying to get likes for a piece of work that you'd spent 2 or 3 days working on, and you try so hard and you put it online, and then you check back and you've got one like, a day later, and it's so disheartening. And I know people will say to you like, but you shouldn't be doing art for other people, you should be doing for yourself. But it's still a bit disheartening when you're like, yeah, but I thought that was really good. And I just would have quite liked just even people to have just touched the screen with their thumb just to say they liked it, but apparently that was too much effort. for that piece of art. And I'm sure that probably resonates with a lot of artists now, where you just like, because you go through your feed and it's just a stream of excellent art, because there are so many artists doing so many great pieces of work these days. That it's only a few people that would actually be going through and hitting like on every single one. So yeah, I've had this difficult relationship with it where I love it and I really embrace it. And then I find it really unrewarding. And then I kind of drop it and move on to something that maybe is more rewarding. So that's why my kind of journey has been a bit off and on with being an artist. But I still, when I do pick it up, and maybe it's my slightly ADHD brain, I love it. And for 6 months, I'm like completely hyper on it. And it's all I'm thinking about. And I'm thinking about the next piece of work I want to do. And inevitably, the ambitions will get bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'll do something absolutely enormously complex that will take 2 weeks to draw, 3 weeks to color in. And then I will have completely burnt my brain out and never want to do art for another year. So, I'm perhaps my own worst enemy with it.
So you mentioned having a bit of an online platform. I do want to give a little caveat of like a NSFW, not warning, but definitely heads up in that respect. With being online and being on the AD side of things, how do you kind of maintain privacy online?
Yeah, so it's weird how the AD sort of side of I'll use the word brand, even though that sounds really awful. But I think because I was in the fandom for 20 years without much presence online, apart from me plugging away trying to be an artist. Um, Seeing the AD side, seeing fursuiters being all spicy online, making their content, it always just felt like this completely different world, but a world that I would never be in. It was a world for other people, and it was just for I would just be forever watching that world. And the older I got, the more I kind of accepted that this is just the way it is. That is their world, and this, I will just be on Instagram, be on like Twitter, just watching them. But when I got a fursuit, and because I didn't really have much of a presence online, I just kind of created my character with my suit. I kind of arrived and realized you could sort of set the tone that you wanted to, and people would just immediately associate that tone with that character. And I think wanting to finally dip a toe in that water from the off, I kind of set a slightly spicy tone, I would say, just from I would always say it's three chili spicy. It's like the medium in Nando's of spicy. Sometimes it goes a little spicier, but it's never like super graphic. It's just a little bit kind of in the middle spicy. Um, because immediately I wasn't straight off the bat just really wanting to be too gratuitous because it was all kind of new, that world to me. So I really just set this kind of slightly hoppy, slightly spicy, slightly flirty tone with just how I was replying to people as well who were saying hello, and with the sort of captions that I would put on the pictures that I was posting. And it's amazing how quickly everyone then just associates you with that character. You've just made a character like wholesale overnight, and then people then come up to you in real life and talk to you in that way and just expect you to be that way. And it's a really strange thing to go through. So it was I did kind of stumble my way into being a bit spicy online and having a sort of, as I said, three chili spicy sort of flirty content. So yeah, hopefully it's never too gratuitous. Maybe every now and again I might retweet something, but it's mostly I'm just trying to be in that middle area of a bit flirty. So yeah, it was kind of by accident, kind of by experimentation, and kind of I think trying to express a side of me that until that point was quite repressed and quite I'd never get to be that person. Because I'm not really like that in real life. I'm kind of a bit shy, kind of one of those people that doesn't realize sometimes when someone's flirting with them. I'm sure you've seen those memes online where they're like, dude, that person was flirting with you. And they're like, what? I can be that guy sometimes. So it was quite nice to kind of pretend in a way and pretend to be like, oh, what if I was like that person? And then I think kind of because I've now been Tav for 5 years, those kind of lines have blurred quite a lot between what was character and what actually is me. So I'm kind of somewhere in between the two now.
That is fascinating. Thank you. Because like I only see it online and I go, that's Tav, cool. But I feel weird interacting with it because I know you. Like, you know what I mean?
I think a lot of people that do know me and knew me before as well probably kind of look at the way I am online and be a bit like, that's kind of strange because you're not that guy. And actually I've met on my journeys now around the world. There are quite a few people that I've met where I'm pretty sure I knew who I was going to be meeting, and then actually I realized, oh, it's kind of a character as well. Like you're kind of doing the same thing. You have a side, you have a front that you post on social media, not in a bad way. It's just like that. That's just the character you've made. It's kind of how you hold yourself when you're wearing the suit. It's the type of way you reply to things. It's the type of content that you post. That's all part of your character. But once you take the suit off and you're having a beer, you're not really that guy. You're kind of out of character in a way. And again, I never really set out to do that, which was the really strange thing. It was never part of my intention was to like create an alter ego that was drastically different to myself. Um, but it was just a way of having the confidence, wearing a mask and having the confidence to pretend to be that person to help me grow into being more like that, which I feel like I have been able to. I've grown a huge amount from having my suit and having that freedom to explore being that person. So if you would like my to see mostly just fursuit, relatively wholesome, Instagram is probably the place to go. I'm TavTavern on there. I'm TavTavern in most places. TavTavern on Instagram, and that's mostly because of their moderation rules means you can't really post anything too spicy on there. So that's always very family friendly. If you don't mind a little bit of spice in your life, I'm on Blue Sky and X as well. Um, Although I don't really like being on X because it's a bit depressing. But I'm there for the moment. But yeah, just look for TavTavern and you will find me.
Fabulous, Tav. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been so, so fun. It's been ages since I saw you in person last.
It has. Last time I saw you, I was dressed like Spider-Man.
Oh, like I think it must have been the LFM Summer Party 23, I think is last time our in-person paths crossed, I think.
I think so, yeah. Yeah, it was. That was a good party.
It was fierce good crack altogether. It was too long ago to have. We're
It
making,
was
we're
it
making
was too
plans
long.
next year. It's happening. 2026, it's happening. Tav, thank you so much for coming on. I've really, really enjoyed it. Um, and everything is fabulous. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you so much. You too. Thank you for having me.